Welcome back. So the lions didn't actually do what we wanted them to do. They were supposed to continue walking down this road and then allow the credits to roll with the beautiful sunrise that is unfolding to our left. So we can just let everyone imagine. Look at that. That was the plan. That would have been nice. Anyway, next time I think we are going to ditch these ladies and head off in search of the Owino Pride. So I hope everyone's okay with those plans. I'm not expecting anything great from these guys, unless of course a herd of wildebeest come running straight into them, which is possible. But considering that we can't see any wildebeest, it's not highly likely that it's going to happen within the next hour. So I think it makes sense for us to go fishing elsewhere. And while we do that, so are you. You are going to head back to Mr. Henry with Tingana.
Good morning, everybody who's just joined us on SafariLive Overtime. Here we sit with Tingana, who is having a particularly gentle gauntlet morning today. My name is James Henry. On camera today we have got Craig, the Batman Batters. That was his thumb flashing past the lens, bat-like. And Tingana over there is sitting in a tree. If you weren't watching the show with us and you've just joined us, he stole that impala from his son Hosana, who is lying in a bush with Tristan not too far from here, so we'll introduce you to him in a little while. Please talk to us, ask us any questions you'd like to. You can send us your comments, you can send your insults and jokes as well if you'd like, and we'll do our best to address all of those things. This fat lazy cat basically has not touched this meal. All he's doing is lying up there in the tree, stopping anyone else from eating it. I think that's because he's been doing so much pilfering and thieving of late that his belly is too full to take another morsel of meat. So that's the situation here. We're hoping for a little bit of brightness in a little while. Of course, there is a very thick blanket of cloud hanging over the lowveld of South Africa at the moment, and that's our particular gauntlet, trying to stay warm and dry. Very unusual weather conditions here. Mad Andy, you say, of course Tingana stole it. Well, I mean, one doesn't want to cast aspersions on the aging Duke, but yes, he does seem to be getting most of his meals these days in the same way that our government gets its money, through theft. And, well, I guess as he gets older, that's all right. He's allowed to do that. He's a little bit... He's done he's gone through his rites of passage. He's done all the things he needs to survive, and so, well, in many respects, he deserves to take a little bit of food from the animal you're about to see now.
Now, as James just alluded to, Hosana, unfortunately, has had his meal taken and stolen by the Duke, which is not ideal for him, and, well, he's just curled up in a little ball behind us. As James also mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got a David this morning, and you might not have seen his thumb because it's wrapped up in a glove-like structure that is trying to keep him warm because it, well, as James also mentioned, is cold and rainy this morning. It is not very pleasant weather at all, and it's leading to some rather inactive cats. You can see Hosana has curled himself into the tightest ball that he possibly can and has even positioned himself in a little thicket, which is pretty much he's on the right side of where the rain was coming from. So the rain was coming from the south, which is off to his right-hand side and right of our frame, and coming in towards where he's lying, and so it's really been a good spot to have chosen because it's going to be keeping off the moisture that is coming down. Now the rain is petering out quite nicely now. It was a bit heavy earlier in the morning, but it is starting to back off a little bit, which is quite pleasant. I can tell you from our point of view, it is very, very pleasant. And I believe a lot of you are saying, poor Hosana, I know, he can't catch a break, can he? His family just invites themselves for dinner and eats everything every single time. And so every meal that we've seen him take or catch since his return has ended up being stolen by one of his family members. And it's two main culprits in particular in the form of Thandi and Tingana. So hopefully at some point the little prince will find himself something that the rest of the family will leave him alone. Now, talking about leaving him alone, we don't want to leave out one member of our team that is also out and about braving the weather, and that's Mr. Steve Falconbridge, and he's ready to say good morning to all of you.
Good morning, everybody. We are out, and we are indeed about, and it is wet, and it is a little bit miserable out here, but hopefully we'll be able to find ourselves something. We heard some alarm calls earlier around Gallagher Pan. We've moved into the area where the lions were last seen last night, and I'm on camera with Senzo. He's come out with me. We're going to see if we can find those lions. They're probably heading in a north, sort of easty direction. Hopefully they don't bump into those leopards, because who knows what's going to happen. But the gauntlet of life that is playing out in the rainy, misty morning here in Djuma could be quite spectacular, really. We've got the spotlight out, we've got the lights. It is very exciting to be out. Very exciting. Well, we haven't heard any lions calling. I've been listening for a long time, but this kind of weather is lions either lie down and do absolutely nothing, or they go in search of food, because there's nothing like a little bit of zebra or wildebeest in the belly to warm one up. Because we know that they love wildebeest and zebra. And Scotty Dyson, who's been out all morning with his pride of lions, is still all the way up in the Masai Mara. And what are his lions up to?
Thanks, Steve. Now, we haven't left these lions as I had planned to. That it's simply too beautiful a scene, and I would like to just kind of make sure that they do decide to kind of settle up here for the rest of the day. That way it'll be easier for Brent to find them when he comes out a little bit later on. And as a lot of you know, these are Brent's lions, so it would be nice to hand them over for him. The other mating pair is quite far away. I mean, we'll be able to snipe you a view. You'll just see a little black dot. There we go. There's the beautiful big male. Well, he's not that beautiful, actually. That was a lie. He's quite scraggly, actually. And the lioness is somewhere there. She actually could be underneath them at the moment. I think she could just be to the left. I don't think they are actually mating at the moment, but they could be. Here goes Kinky Tail right in front of the car. How cool is this? Very, very nice. So she was leading the pride as they moved, and she kind of tends to be the leader. And where will she decide to take them next? Okay, Elisa, you would like to know if the kind of prey animals have wisened to the fact that if there's a vehicle around, there could well be predators. I think certain species, mainly the Cape buffalo, I've noticed can be quite nervous when a vehicle arrives, and I think that is because they have kind of, possibly associated lions being with vehicles and kind of bad memories. However, what we must remember is that a lot of the time when people are driving around passing buffalo, wildebeest, a lot of the prey animals, there's not necessarily a predator around. So I think more often than not, the herbivores see vehicles without prey, without predators nearby them, and therefore, as a general rule, probably won't bother too much. But what you may find is that herbivores kind of behavior changes when a vehicle arrives, mainly because the vehicle's noise that will kind of mask any predator's footsteps that could be approaching the prey. So that kind of ambient noise created by a vehicle, as could be created by wind blowing in the grass, that may cause animals to get a little bit nervous and possibly think there could be a predator around. But thankfully, we don't seem to have had too much of an impact on the predators and the prey, and us being around causing any negative impacts for either sides. We wouldn't want that. Okay, everyone, as beautiful as the scene is, I think we need to keep moving. There are a lot more wildebeest to the south of us, and where the wildebeest are, there could be a lot of action, hopefully with the Owino pride. So hopefully that's where you'll see us next. For now, back to James and Tingana.
Well, it's difficult to describe what we're seeing here as packed full of action. You can see the only movement from Tingana the male leopard is a little subtle upping and dowing of his left back foot. Very exciting stuff. What we will show you is the kill now. Craig, if you'd be so kind as to focus in on the hanging carcass, the very displeased look on the face of the impala there. You can see his eyes lolling open. He's very, very upset to be up there in the tree. That is, of course, because he is dead. If I was dead, I would also be upset. Hopefully Tingana is going to get up and start eating fairly soon, because he has not done that for the last hour or so, and I imagine he must at some stage try and eat. Well, yes, Dory, this is not unusual for all the predators, especially leopards who can keep a pantry. They will certainly take every opportunity to eat and to take food. So even if he wasn't pilfering quite as much as he is at the moment, if he had the opportunity, let's say he had this impala here, he was full, and he went down for a drink and something got in his way and the opportunity to kill it presented itself, he would kill and then stash the animal that he killed in a tree. And so leopards are known to keep pantries. They are particularly or uniquely able to do that, of course, because of their ability to hoist their kills. Some huge action there. You saw he turned his head from one side to the other. Goodness gracious, he nearly fell out of the tree. It's almost too much to see. Here we go. Come on, get up, eat. That's it. Wonderful. Anyway, we will shortly, hopefully, go into colour. Like I say, the dawn is taking a long time to break here with a very thick blanket of cloud over the Lowveld. Well, Kalina, the reason that it is dark in South Africa and light in the Mara, probably three reasons. One is, of course, that the Mara is closer to the equator, which means that the sun is further north than it is. It is also further to the, they are in front of us, and therefore it is further to the east of where we are, and therefore because they are further east of where we are, the sun is going to come up earlier than it does over here. I mean, obviously in Australia, it's coming up 8 hours in front of where it does here. So they're already into the afternoon. So that's why. And then the other reason, of course, is that the Mara is not covered in a great big thick blanket of cloud at the moment. So although they're not very far east of where we are now, there is a clear sky. And in fact, you'd be able to see the sort of, it would be light enough to go into colour if we didn't have this cloud hanging over us right now. So those are the three reasons. Now, although there's no colour on this particular picture, sitting very close to me is Tristan Dix with David, and they're using the Flieger thermal camera.
We are indeed, James. We are bringing a splash of colour to this morning's affair on Djuma to brighten up a rather grey day. And as you can see, Hosanna is being obliging and has lifted his head and showing just how hot his chin is from tucking his face into his tummy area. He was really kind of tucked in, and his chin is glowing hot from kind of keeping it very close to the rest of his body and trying to make himself as tight a ball as possible. What is interesting is that the back of his head is showing a few hot spots. Now, yesterday we actually saw a lioness with a hot spot on her hip, which was an old wound that she has. And I wonder if maybe he's got a little kind of bite mark or something on the back of his head there that has been caused. Maybe but in the hunt when he took down this impala, he might have hit his head on a branch or something like that. And that's why he's got a bit of a hot spot. But shame, it is a cold morning. You can see the ground around him is that very kind of purpley color. And that indicates that it's very, very, very cool on the ground, and he's having to try and produce all the heat himself, and it's why he's trying to insulate and trying to keep everything together. You know, when you're very cold, you'll stick your hands kind of between your legs and you'll try and huddle yourself up as much as possible to try and keep all of that heat in and to try to stay warm. And so that's exactly what he's doing. I think as the dawn breaks, though, we might see him go off for water. Funny enough, when we found him this morning, he wasn't actually very close to the kill. He was quite far away, and he then wandered his way back here. I think as Tingana ascended into the tree, maybe he heard it and came this way. So I'm interested to see if he maybe goes for water. Normally with leopards on a kill is once they've eaten, they'll walk, have water, and then come back again. So he might do that again. So proud cat mama, there are quite a few advantages of being a solitary hunter. One is that you don't have to worry about anybody else making a mistake and ruining the hunt. Often if you watch things like lions and even groups of cheetahs, there will be an over-exuberant individual that will run out and spoil it for everybody else, and it means that then the hunt is over. Also, the more you are, the easier it is for those predators and prey animals to actually spot you sometimes, because they have to look out for one leopard, but spotting 11 lions in the grass means that there's a higher chance that those animals will be spotted, and so being on your own means that you can sneak around a lot easier. Also, their coloration and the way that they are and allows them to be the solitary predator, because they can move around in the densest and thickest of bush. And if there was a lot of you in thick, dense bush, it makes it quite difficult to see the visual cues between the pride members or the coalition members, and it would make it very difficult then to be able to orchestrate a hunt in very dense vegetation like leopards like to hunt in. So, it works for them, and they, as we can see, Hosanna is a supremely efficient animal at finding food, as is Tundi. They are able to kill pretty regularly. I mean, we know with Hosanna it's been almost like clockwork. Every 2 to 3 days we're finding him on some sort of food. So he really does work very well for him being a single predator, and it's because of various factors and physiological advantages that he's got over maybe some of the other cats. But definitely being on his own means that he's able to be a lot more sneaky than potentially a pride of lions. Right, well, Hosanna is still curling up, still sleepy. Hopefully he is going to wake up and take us for a bit of a walk. And while we wait for him to do that, we're going to send you back across to Steve, who has still got his spotlight out and is vigorously searching for the creatures of the pre-dawn in Africa.
I am indeed vigorously searching. We are hoping to pick up on any sort of tracks or activity of potentially the Nkuhumas that last, I believe, were moving northeast. And we heard some alarm calls, as I said. And although it is miserable and wet out, it is marvelous to be out in this environment. Anything could happen. We've seen a couple in Impala and the odd Deka that are just standing there sort of trying not to get too wet, although I think it's long past that, trying to avoid being detected, although the smells don't go too far in these conditions. The lions are, I'd say, would be primarily hunting by sound and sight, because when it's raining like this, it dampens all of those smells. It's one of the a lot of the animals we have, predator animals reclaim territories and remark after rainfall like this. So maybe at some point Tingana will get off of his lazy bottom and go and actually spray some of his famous urine all around his territory, because that is what he should be doing. But we seem to be losing some signals, so let's go back home to the Duke himself.
Well, the Duke hasn't moved yet, but I've got to tell you, there's been a lot of action around us during the course of this sort of blustery and chilly morning, and I hope that Steve is going to find the Nkuhuma pride. Certainly there was a lot of alarm calling around where he's looking, and so with any luck he will find those lions, our very favourite lions here, the Nkuhuma pride of 5 lionesses and their 6 youngsters. And they, of course, are used to making a gauntlet for the buffalo here. But these days, with the buffalo absent after the long drought of 2 years ago, from which they have not recovered, they seem to be making Juma the gauntlet for the zebra. They've whacked 2 or 3 zebra in the last few days, and so if I was a zebra, I would not want to be anywhere near the Nkuhuma pride at the moment. Tingana hasn't moved, like I say. I think it is going to be worth sitting here, though, because I'm pretty sure at some stage he's going to get up and start to eat. Jared's buddy, well, it might not seem like hunting weather to you, but this is actually excellent hunting weather for leopards and lions. And so I think you'll find those lions, if they are on Juma right now, will probably be on the hunt unless they killed something last night. So this drizzle and heavy air will mask their movement. It'll make moving through the grass without crunching things that much easier, so their prey will struggle to hear them. I suspect it will mask their scent to potential prey, and of course their colour at the moment with this tawny vegetation is just perfect. They're almost invisible as they walk through the long grass like this. This is when their camouflage really comes to the fore. Very difficult for them to hide behind things with the vegetation like it is because it's very thin. There are no green bushes for them to hide behind, but they can move through this long grass. We had a very good rainy season last year, so the grass is long. It's perfect for the lions to be walking through. So yes, in fact, it's actually very good hunting sort of weather and conditions for the lions. Dizzy Lizzie, no, a leopard's hair colour doesn't change much with the seasons. You know, they do get slightly thicker hair during the summer, at least during the winter time, and I suppose that might result in a slight dulling of the colour that they had. They're probably a little bit golder maybe during the summer months, maybe slightly paler during the winter, but no, they don't change with the seasons. I'm trying to think of any animals that do actually change with the seasons. There are a few invertebrates, so insects that would change colour with the seasons, but I'm not sure of any mammals that would change necessarily. I could be wrong, there may be a few, but the leopards here, no, they don't really change colour. It's now, though, that you see their camouflage coming to the fore. We often make the mistake of talking about camouflage in summertime when we can't see an animal, when in actual fact all it's done is walk behind a bush. You know, you could hide a bright pink balloon behind a thick guarri bush in the summertime, but it's now when there is no or very few bushes with leaves on them that this amazing camouflage comes to the fore, and when the grass is this tawny colour that you see them walking and slinking through the undergrowth, and you realise how clever both the lion's camouflage, they're a bit bigger obviously, and the leopard's camouflage. They're moving through slightly more wooded areas than the lions you'd expect the lions to be in, and so it's really now that their exceptional coloration or camouflage comes to the fore. Now Taylor McCurdy, up in the Marsimara, has managed to find herself some tawny terror moving through the grass. I suspect it's probably near the river.
Look at what we've stumbled across this morning. It looks like a young male lion that has brought down a wildebeest. That is very, very exciting to see out here in the Mara. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is, of course, Archie. And like I said, we are here in the Mara Triangle, sort of the same spot as Scott, but just closer down towards the river. Now, I've absolutely no idea who we've got eating the carcass, but I have seen a lioness with a sub-adult male around here, and I'm almost certain that it's probably them, but where's the female? Very unusual. She might be around here somewhere. We've actually been seeing lots and lots and lots of herds of wildebeest gathering around here. They haven't quite got to the middle of the triangle. They're still lingering in the southern section, but you can see they've done a good job. But they might have killed this wildebeest a little bit earlier. But they're right close up on the road, which is fantastic. And not too far away from the river either, probably about 1.5 miles away. Now, Ages, that's exactly what I'm so excited for, is that I don't know when the hyenas are going to arrive, but that young male, he does look around every now and then. And, of course, keeping an eye out. Now, there's a clan of hyenas, not the North clan, but the Southern clan that live down and around here. And they're also quite big. I'm not sure how many members there are, but often I see them sitting and, well, I suppose, moving around on this particular road. So it could happen at any moment. We just need one hyena to figure out what's actually going on over here. And then, of course, well, they're going to come streaming on in. Now we just wait and play the patience game. But I'm still looking for that lioness. I might actually have to grab my binoculars in a minute and have a little scan around, because I don't think that she'd be far. I don't think she'd be far whatsoever. But with all the wildebeest around, it's not uncommon for these lions to kill more than one wildebeest in one go. And of course, if you are a little bit sad for the wildebeest, yes, I suppose it is. But these lions need to eat too. Oh, you know what? I've just seen a second carcass, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you. I will take you to it in a little while. But anyways, it seems as though Scott is also playing a bit of CSI.
Well, exciting stuff there with Taylor, and who knows how many more lion and carcasses may be littered in the long grass over there. We've got a carcass of our own here. This is where our morning started, with one lioness feeding on that unlucky wildebeest. I thought it would be worth coming back here to see if any scavengers like hyena or jackal or vultures were having breakfast, but it seems like they're having breakfast elsewhere or possibly sleeping in today. So we are going to continue on. Anywhere in this general area is where we could find the Owino Pride of Lions. Kind of where we're looking now is where they were last seen heading yesterday morning. But there's just so much food around at the moment that it's difficult to try and guess where they may have headed. So just kind of stopping and listening and using my binoculars to scan these open plains to see if we can't find out where they've gone, rather than just driving around hoping we're going to bump into them. But what I'm thinking of doing now is heading kind of out in that direction. If we take a closer look, we'll see that there are hundreds and thousands of wildebeest and zebra out in that direction. So there we can see many wildebeest and zebra. So that is where we are going to head, and I'm hoping that is where we are going to find some lions. Marvelous. Oh, well, we've got some wonderful feedback from Nathan, who is quite surprised by the fact that this is actually quite cool. So that's good news, Nathan. I'm glad that you are slowly changing your thoughts about what we do here. And who knows, Nathan, maybe we'll get to show you a live kill. We might even find a cheetah. There's a cheetah and her youngster. Oh, there's something running along on the road. Let's go and find out what it is. Actually, it's just some jackals. I thought it was something more exciting. So, seeing as though it's not, we're going to send you back down to Tristan with Hosanna.
Well, I'm not with Hosanna anymore, Scott. We've managed to leave him now. He's still resting and sleeping, but there are some other vehicles that would like to make their way into the sighting, and so I've left James with Hosanna and Tingana, and we're going to go and explore a little bit and see if we can find anything else that's going on. When we were sitting with them in the darkness of the night, we were hearing another leopard sawing to the south of us. It sounded like on Gowrie Main, probably not on our side, but we're going to try and just double check and see. I also wanted to drive Twin Dams Road because I wanted to check if potentially the lions maybe moved this way. I know that they were walking in an easterly direction, and earlier in the day I had seen zebras in that area, and so I'm thinking that maybe those lions might have hunted those zebras, and I've actually got zebra tracks on the road now, so I wanted to just double check and see if maybe, just maybe, there was some sort of sign of the lions walking behind them. So far I can't see anything. It doesn't look like there was any sign of them actually being here and moving in this general vicinity, but I'll just keep checking and making sure. And so while I do that, I said that I'd left James with Flat Cat, Tingana and Hosanna, and well, let's see if there's been any developments that side.
Well, Tingana has woken up and he's been staring at us, and he really does have the face of a wizened old leopard. Unfortunately now he's put his eye behind an inconveniently placed branch, which I'd quite like to go and chop off. No, Ray, he's neither lazy nor ill. He's a cat, so all of these cats will sleep for a very long time. They are all opportunists. They will all scavenge if the opportunity presents itself. So he's neither lazy nor ill. I don't think he's ill at all. I think he's in superb condition for a 12-year-old male leopard. So, you know, his propensity to do not very much and then steal kills is precisely what all of these cats would do if they could. I have heard of sort of murmurings that he's not killing for himself anymore because he's too old, and, you know, if Hosanna wasn't here he wouldn't be able to eat as much, and he is depending on his son for food. I don't think that's true. I think that he is certainly going to take every opportunity he can to get a free meal, but I don't believe that he's incapable of killing for himself, and the fact that Hosana is sitting in this territory doing a lot of killing is just making life a little bit easier for him. And of course it's one of the reasons that when Hosana becomes a fully grown adult, he won't tolerate being around a leopard that takes his food. At the moment he's too small really to challenge Tingana. He's too inexperienced as well, although his strength would be impressive. This is like a sort of heavyweight boxer with 20 fights, 20 knockouts to his name, against a young amateur who may well become a champion one day, but doesn't have the weight or the experience yet. So while he is coming to the end of his career, there is no substitute, as they say in sporting parlance, for experience. That is definitely the case with this fellow. Look at his eyes. Aren't those beautiful? Always aware. Those don't look like the eyes of a sick animal. Let's go across to the Masai Mara, where a lot of what Taylor's going to show you actually do die of illness rather than predator.
Well, our young male lion is still feasting on the wildebeest carcass. Now, unfortunately, you're going to hear lots of people driving past and talking. I do apologize, but there are lots of people out on safari. However, this is, of course, very, very, very exciting stuff. So what I was going to tell you is that there's an amazing scene, but I can't show you too much because we can't move around as we want to try and keep our eyes on this lion. But I'll just quickly tell you about what had happened. This is not the only wildebeest that these two lions have killed. Like I said, that female has to be in the area somewhere. But in fact, they chased two wildebeest out onto the gravel roads. Now, it can be quite slippery, and I think that the lions used the gravel roads to their advantage, and maybe one of them slipped because you could see the skid marks on the floor. You could even see some big tufts from the sort of the mane underneath the wildebeest chin on the ground too, and the wildebeest is basically just on that side, and that looks like a fully grown one. This one doesn't look particularly big, just looking from the size of the horns, and also just the size of its body. It doesn't seem to be a massive whatsoever. Joy, it's very, very difficult to tell whether this wildebeest was pregnant or not. Perhaps. Like I said, it doesn't look particularly big, but I've also seen some female wildebeest out here who've got quite small horns. Now, they normally give birth only in February, and I haven't really noticed on any of the other wildebeest that you can sort of notice that they're starting to bear a calf. So I think maybe it's just a little bit on the bloated side, perhaps. But I can't believe how quickly they've sort of disemboweled it. Or maybe it actually doesn't even look like they've got to the stomach just yet. This is awesome. Now, I'm so glad that we've got to see this pair of lions again, or at least just the sub-adult male. And I'm glad that they've moved up, further up towards one of the main river roads. Because where they were before, they were hiding and utilizing all the trees along the river, which of course make it very difficult for you to watch them hunt. But I suppose they're just going to follow the wildebeest. And they've been following this one herd for the last couple of days. So finally, we've managed to see them eating something. So I'm looking forward to following them for the rest of the day to see what they get up to. And you won't believe it sometimes, and I'm hoping that we get to witness it. You'll have a pride of lions that take down 5 or 6 wildebeest in, the span of an hour. And they don't necessarily eat them all. Sometimes they just let them go. Like, I don't think they'll be able to hold onto these carcasses for too long. They're out in the open. There's no trees to sort of hide them under. So the vultures are going to tell everybody a little bit later today that there are kills here. And then, of course, that's going to bring the hyenas in. And maybe even other lions, because there's a few other prides around here too. So all very exciting stuff. And I suppose any of that could happen right now. The sun is up. We're an hour ahead of South African time, of Central African time. So with the day warming up, it could mean that the vultures will I suppose, start coming in. Surprised they aren't here already. Normally they're roosting up on the trees, almost following the wildebeest around. But this is absolutely insane to see, and so close. But it seems as though Scott, however, has got some wildebeest that are still alive.
Well, awesome stuff there with Taylor, and it is interesting at this time of the year. You'd expect often vultures to be swooping down, but I guess there's just so much food around that they're probably having a meal elsewhere. As you can see, we've made it into the thick of things here. We are surrounded by many, many wildebeest and also zebra, and we're hoping that some lions are going to pop out of the long grass and nab one, but that might not happen. It's really interesting though. I mean, you'd be astounded to know or to see scenarios like this with just so much food and prey species around. And there can often be lion or cheetah or leopard dotted in and amongst them because there's just simply so many of them that there's bound to be a lion somewhere. Chitty Chatty Megs, you ask a very difficult question. You've put me into a spot here asking whether Djuma or the Mara is better for going on safari. Well, I guess it's like saying, are the Backstreet Boys or the Spice Girls better? It depends on your preferences. If you like leopards, you'd probably want to go to Djuma. If you like lion and cheetah, this would probably be a better option. The time of the year also has an impact. I don't particularly like being in the Lowveld in summer. I much prefer being there in winter. So that's kind of one thing. But having said that, I'd also like to be here at the same time of the year that Djuma is at its best, in my opinion. So yeah, Chitty Chatty Megs, I mean, I guess you've experienced enough of both locations to make a decision of your own, which you may prefer. It would be difficult for me to pick one over the other. I love the fact that you can walk and track in the sands. It's a habitat that's well suited to that. Not that you can't do it here, it's just not really the right terrain and layout for good walks and tracking. Just going to keep quiet for a second so you can listen to all these canoes saying hello to one another. Aegis, you say nice save, thank you. I'm trying to be on my best behavior. Not easy so early in the morning. I tend to forget. It's also quite cold, so I'm not firing on all cylinders just yet. Alrighty then. Probably thinking of moving on. Brad, you'd like to know if I prefer the Backstreet Boys or the Spice Girls. Of course I prefer the Spice Girls. Yeah, Spice Girls are my favorites. Don't ask me which Spice Girl though, that's going to cause trouble, Brad. So, very good. We're going to send you across now to James Henry to hear his thoughts on the latter two bands.
The lack of what? I'm afraid I missed that one. Anyway, Tingana is here. We've moved very slightly. Oh, I think... what was the first one, Kirsten? Oh, God. No, neither. Thanks very much. I'm going to go with I'd rather hear Tingana sawing into my ear for 25 years than listen to either of those two. For me, that would be a gauntlet of the most dire proportions to have to listen to either of those two. Now I'm becoming all hot under the collar at the thought of it. Oh, I've gone cold at the same time. Good. Tingana has not moved. We have moved slightly closer to him. He did sit up. He looked like he was going to have an eat, and now he's back down. Now, looking at the kill in the light, it does seem to me that some has been eaten since last night, but I don't know how much of it was eaten by him. When we got here this morning, it was dark, obviously, and there was no leopard here. We couldn't see a leopard. We knew there was one around because, of course, there was a kill in the tree. We drove about the place, didn't find anything, came back to the tree, and there was a leopard in the tree, which we assumed was Hosana. Tristan then went off and followed some alarming impalas and realized that he had Hosana, and then we realized that we had Tingana in here. And so I think the pilfering, the actual theft, took place pretty much as we arrived here at about, what would that have been, about 4:15 this morning. And since then, Tingana has not moved, really, other than to sort of shift himself for comfort. Well, Proud Cat Mama, I am of the opinion that the word aggression shouldn't, or aggressive shouldn't really be attributed to any wild animals out here. I think, well, let's get on to that later. So I don't think that either social predators or solitary predators can be considered more aggressive than the other. It would always depend on the situation. If you look at something like a lion, I suppose they will be more defensive, more likely to defend a kill against other predators because of their size and because they're in a group. Now, does that make them more aggressive? I'm not sure. Aggressive to me indicates a kind of wanton violence, almost an attack-filled nature, if you like, that I suppose is absent or more absent in an animal like a wild dog. But that's simply because the wild dog is at greater risk. They're smaller, their groups are more vulnerable to bigger predators like hyenas and lions, and so while we may perceive their nature to stand down to the bigger predators as a lack of aggression, I don't think it's a lack of aggression, because they can be just as aggressive towards hyenas if the hyenas are in smaller numbers, and leopards can be just as aggressive towards each other as lions can be towards lions, or lions can be towards hyenas. So I'm not sure that we can answer the question, are social predators more or less aggressive than solitary predators? And that's what makes the question so nice, I suppose, because I really quite enjoy the fact that we don't have an answer to it. Please excuse the rain roof. It has been drizzling all morning, and that's why we are sitting with the rain roof here, and it's why we haven't gone down to the bottom to get another view up at Tingana from the bottom, because we would certainly be able to do that if we didn't have the roof on. Now, it is, of course, very cloudy over here. In the Masai Mara, it has dawned clear and beautiful over the world's greatest natural spectacle.
Well, have a look at that, spotted by Archie. There is the lioness, although you can really just see her tail at the moment. She's hidden in the grass, but thank you for revealing yourself. That's fantastic. Now we know where she is. I can stop scanning with my binoculars. I've been looking all around trying to find her. She was right under our nose. But this young fellow, who is of course a growing young man, needs to eat as much as he can. Now, I don't actually know how old he is. I haven't seen him standing up, but I'm sure he's probably quite close to the age of about 2 years old. And I'm fairly certain as in saying that it could be the offspring of that lioness, although I haven't really seen her this morning. Trish, now this is actually a conversation I've had with a few people around camp, and when you said when observing lions, should you avoid staring them or making direct eye contact? Now, well, when you're on foot and you're being charged by an animal, I don't really know where else to look, because I don't want to be looking up at the sky like this going, oh, well, maybe if I just look over here, it'll, it's not going to charge me. So I typically look at the animals. I think it's more of an old wives' tale. You hear stories of people, and obviously everybody has their own experiences. However, I've been looking at that lion in his eyes, and he's looked at me a few times, and well, he seems to be okay with it. Maybe he just thinks I'm admiring his dinner, I don't know. So I don't worry about it too much, especially when you're in a vehicle. And then again on foot with the scary encounters I've had with some of the big cats on foot, I've made sure that I know exactly what they're doing, so that I can see what their behavior is like, what their ears are doing, are they snarling, all these types of things. If you don't look at them, you don't really know what's going on, and they will give you obvious signs too. Again, we are on safari. There's lots of people here in the Mara Triangle who are of course very excited to see this male lion, and that everyone's on their way down to the south towards the main crossings, I think hoping for a big wildebeest crossing today. But I think we might just hang around over here. Apparently there's some more lions not too far away either, so we'll see. Maybe we'll bumble on down and see what they're up to. good that they're all deciding to poke their heads out now, because I've been looking for lions along the river for ages, for a very long time. But at least today they have decided to come out. Sorry, everyone's just repositioning, trying to get a view, as you can imagine. It's in quite a tricky spot. That grass is so long. Good for the lions, not necessarily good for everybody wanting to take a picture. Well, anyways, off you go to one of the larger watering holes in South Africa.
Yes, indeed. This is not the raging river of the Masai Mara. This is, in fact, Chitwa watering hole with our famous group of hippopotamuses and the famous island behind there, which we're either going to be calling James Island or Impala Island. We're not sure yet, but an impala was on there just last week and it lost a swimming race against a crocodile between there and the channel to this side. So the only animals I know that enjoy the rain are hippos and elephants. The rest, well, they just grudgingly grin and bear it, trying to stay as dry and warm as possible. The hippos, though, well, they quite enjoy the moisture. As you can see, they're very aquatic lifestyle. They have been out on the open plains feeding on all of the grass that we have available, not as much as you're seeing up there in the Masai Mara. The hippos are definitely starting to mow the grass very, very short, and the rain we are getting today is a really good relief for the dry winter conditions that have been prevailing, and it will provide a nice little flush of green grass and definitely entice some of the antelope species to move into areas where the hippos have mowed it nice and short. Everybody is interested in the impala, and I quite like that name actually. It just came to me in a moment of contemplation. And how it got there in the first place, James seems to think it was definitely wild dogs, because there's nothing that makes an antelope swim more than a wild dog. And a few days after that, he got wild dogs here again, and then impala jumped into the watering hole and swam, and once again the crocodile pulled it under. So that is what happens. You try and evade the predator and you get munched in the process. So it's definitely eliminated my desire to ever try and swim a lap in Chitwa watering hole. Definitely would entice the crocodiles. What a gauntlet that would be, trying to cross this without getting a toe nipped off. But anyway, we're going to go back over to Tristan, see if he's had any luck with any of the other spotted cats.
Well, no, not yet, Steve. We are still looking around trying to see which animals are around. You can see that we have a kind of long distance view, and I thought I maybe spotted a lion, but I don't think it is. Now, just to the left, if you can go left for me, David. Let's have a look. More left, more left, more. There should be a termite mound. No, there we go, straight in there. No, it's just the way the grass is sitting. I thought that light-coloured part just above the termite mound maybe was a lion sitting. It's so gloomy this morning that it kind of looked like maybe a lioness on a mound watching over this sort of fire break area, and it's roughly where we left the Nkuhumas last night. So I thought maybe, just maybe, our lions were still around and moving about. There's been no tracks for them going anywhere, so I wonder where they've actually gotten to. They might have made a kill somewhere and has since then lay down and slept. I know there was zebras in this area that they might have been hunting yesterday, and I found zebra tracks moving off quite quickly south and far from this area, and so I wonder if these lions didn't just chase them somewhere in this section. So while I just check around and see if I can find the tracks for the Nkuhuma Pride, let's send you back across to James, who is still snug and warm with these spotted cats.
I am snugger and warmer than that cat. That is Hosanna. And what we have here, well, if you can believe it, is a picture of both of them. We'll just show you how close they are to each other. There you can see in the tree is Tingana. He's very, very sleepy and comfortable there. He's got his breakfast lying next to him. And then if we come back to poor little Hosanna, about 25 metres away, there he is, not pleased with the weather in the slightest. Now, yesterday I said that I wouldn't feel sorry for him if Tingana stole his meal, and I must confess to you that I do not feel sorry for him given that Tingana stole his meal, and I don't feel sorry for him simply because he ate quite a lot of that yesterday and he had a very fat belly, and obviously enough for him to go off and have a drink, and that's probably when Tingana leapt up the tree. So I think it's quite nice of him to give his father something to eat, and I think that the arrangement is working quite nicely for both of them. Well, Duke, it really depends on how long it takes for Hosanna to get as big as his father. Like I say, the reason that Tingana is able to take from Hosanna so easily is twofold. One, that he's bigger, and the other is that he's more experienced, so he knows how to chase other leopards away from food. He's been doing it for 10 years longer, or he has 10 years more experience than Hosanna does. So I think Hosanna will reach a similar size in about, I'm going to say 2 years' time. He'll probably weigh a similar amount to Tingana, and that'll be in the region of 63 or 65 kilograms or so, 140 pounds. And then he could, size-wise, challenge him. He'll also have 2 more years of experience. He'll know how to handle himself in a conflict situation. Remember, always these leopards are going to err on the side of caution when it comes to an aggressive interaction. The one notable exception to that seems to be Tandi, who is of course Hosanna's sister and the consort of Tingana. She's also 12 years old, and we've watched her a few times engaging in a physical conflict with other leopards. Now, it does happen, obviously, and a leopard fight is something terrifying to behold, but they do try to avoid it if they can. Tandi seems to be a slight exception to that. She is, of course, the grumpy queen. And so Hosanna, if he's full, if he's not desperate for food, he's not feeling ill, he's not going to try and challenge a bigger, more experienced male for food. And so he's just going to kind of sit here and deal with it. And eventually he'll probably lose patience and slink off. He's full still from the meal he ate last night, and so I don't think he's going to go anywhere until he's a little bit hungrier. Let's go across to Steve. Steve, quickly, he's got an iconic animal flying.
Yes, we do. Well, we're still at Chitwa watering hole. It's not only the leopards that need to survey their territory. Of course, it's going to land behind the tree. There was a fish eagle that had been grinning and bearing the moisture all night, and it finally decided to take flight and lose a little bit of the moisture from its body. They are quite well insulated. If you've seen any of the birds on the flare camera, they're almost at all. So that body keeps them all in. That's why we wear these down jackets. Keeps them nice and warm, and also the preen oil on their feathers. Oh, I don't know if you heard that, but he just called. Beautiful. That is the sound of Africa right there, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm terribly sorry that he disappeared behind the bush. We were hoping to get him while he was sitting in this tree here to do his nice territorial call, but that is the way it is out here in the African wilds. It is live, as Brent would love to say, 100% live. Well, we're going to move off from the watering hole, see what else might be coming on the way down. We were hoping to maybe catch another hyena greeting party on their way here, or who knows, some wild dogs chasing impala into the water, because I mean that seems to be what James gets going whenever he comes down, but maybe that's just the luck. But anyway, we're going to be going all the way back up to the Mara with Taylor, and she's got some very wet wildebeest.
So we have got a new lion eating on the carcass. Our lioness has decided to wake up now, and she's just laying behind some grass. It's difficult to see her, but she is there. You can see some movement. She started to tuck in. That young male actually got up and he's gone for a drink just behind us. But I'm hoping, because it was a couple of minutes ago, that it's about time that he should come walking straight back towards us, and then that is going to be beautiful, because I cannot wait to show you the beautiful vistas here in the Mara Triangle. It's absolutely outstanding. There's so many hot air balloons up in the air. The clouds are also really pretty, but we're going to save that for you once we can get that young male once he comes walking back. I can't actually see him anymore. So there's quite a few sort of drainage lines just off to the side that have collected with water. We're still getting the odd sprinkle here and there of rain, and that's topping it up quite nicely. So they're not having to, well, today they're not having to go right down towards the Mara River to have a drink. But still, no sign of the hyenas, and I'm shocked. Like I said, most mornings, and I've come down this road very early, almost every single day, and I've always seen the odd hyena or two. Perhaps there's been many more kills around and the hyenas have found themselves their own meal. Remember, they're also really good hunters, probably even better hunters and more successful than lions. So they don't need to just scavenge off of the carcasses all the time. But I think that they'll just gobble this one up and probably go and find some shade, because they're going to have to do a bit of a... I'm going to have to walk quite a long way. No, Linda, it's not particularly smelly because this is fresh. I'd only think we missed this maybe by an hour this morning. So you can't really smell anything, and we're also upwind of the carcass, so you're not even getting any of that iron sort of smell. That stomach also hasn't been opened. I had another look. It doesn't look like they've opened it yet. Once they tear into that, of course, you'll get I suppose, the scent of partially digested grass, because not all of it is completely digested, and it's an interesting smell. And as soon as they do that, that's maybe a clever strategy from these lions today. Perhaps they've decided to keep the stomach intact because there are no trees around to tuck, like I said, to tuck that kill and hide it away and keep it out of sight from vultures. And hyenas have got an incredibly keen sense of smell and would probably pick up that scent very quickly, especially if it is blowing downwind back towards the river. That's apparently where the southern clan have got a den. What are you looking at, girl? She just poked her head up. Not for very long, though. Not for very long at all. I'm just looking behind the car, because I'm starting to see people turn around, so I don't know where that young male is. I really thought he was going to come walking back here, but perhaps he's just having a bit of a rest. Anyways, how exciting to have so many lions in the Mara. Off you go back to South Africa, where they're having the same thing with leopards.
We're live. Oh, hello everybody. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why my radio ceased its working. Anyway, here we are with Tingana still. We've moved again to have a look at him a bit closer by there. And you can see that he has a breakfast of some mass still left. I was going to say something of vital importance about Tingana at the moment, and I've now forgotten entirely what that was. Anyway, let's just enjoy the look of his slightly matted and battered face. You can see there, that is the face of a very experienced leopard, and one that is not going to be intimidated even vaguely by his 2.5-year-old son. And that's why he's lying very comfortably there. That said, he doesn't trust his son not to go up the tree and start eating if he were to go down and lie in a more comfortable position. So he'll deal with the fact that it's a bit breezy up there, and he'll deal with the fact that it's not very comfortable. I don't think I do have comms. No, are we getting... No, I definitely don't. We've got 2 minutes left. Alrighty. I'll just try and fix that problem. I'm not sure what the issue is. It's definitely our radio. Sorry about this, everybody. Game Drive radio is working perfectly well. Craig, you'll just have to tell me how long we have. Okay, well, we'll sit here, try and sort out our comms issues. Let's go across to Tristan.
Well, good luck, James. I hope that you do get your comms sorted out, and it's always quite difficult when the comms go because it makes life pretty tricky to be able to hear what's going on, and it's vitally important that we can hear about everything that's happening. Now, we haven't found any sign of the Nkuhuma Pride. I have a funny feeling that they maybe have gone northwards because there's no tracks indicating that they came south. We found where Tingana came from. He came from the north as well, past Gallego, and walked down towards where Hosana was and must have found it via a scent. There's some impalas that are in the distance at the moment. They're just coming across the open area that is quarantine. You can just see them kind of coming down there. But it is that time, I'm afraid, that it is the end of our SafariLive Gauntlet Overtime. It's been, well, very, very pleasant. We've had lots and lots of things going on. 2 leopards, lions, and all kinds of wildebeest migrating across the plains, and now we've even got some impala moving across the plains of Djuma. So it's been an epic hour once again. We've been really spoilt over the course of the last few weeks. But from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Hopefully you'll join us this afternoon for our sunset safari. Till then, we'll see you all. Bye.